For I am justice itself.
We are back. Expert and Dignitas facing off, and the score is currently 2-1. But Caldor, who's in the lead?
It is Expert. Dignitas is again down a game, which means they have now to win 2 in a row if they want to make this happen, if they want to be victorious. And let's face it, if Dignitas loses this would be a big, big blow to what they aspire to do this season.
Yeah, certainly, especially with what we saw yesterday. If we were to walk away from this weekend only seeing what we saw yesterday against the Playing Ducks, we all week are talking about Dignitas being the best team possibly in the HGC. Now we're here in game number 2, or match number 2, and Expert is definitely putting up a fight and making Dignitas look like they have weaknesses.
Yeah, exactly. Especially once that they get aggressive, once they're able to just like drive over them. They're going for these bus driver comps where it's just like saying, all right, one man at the wheel, just like roll over them. And in the past, they have been doing that with Kerrigan comps, with Medivh as well. They really like to do it. That meta, of course, has fallen a bit off. We don't see Kerrigan as often anymore. But right now, they're trying to do the same thing with a combo where they charge in with the Greymane. Sorry, with the variant. Greymane follows it up, and we always have the Malfurion to lock the target down a bit longer with the root to allow those two to get the damage in.
Well, it's time to choose a battleground. Where are we going between our two teams? It is going to be Battlefield of Eternity. Expert gets the pick of the battleground. Dignitas will elect to take first pick.
Dignitas likes to play this, but at the same time, now that we have Battlefield of Eternity, this is another map for ADRD, the mad scientist, to maybe throw a wrench into the plans of Dignitas, but their mostly standard play has actually looked very nice so far.
Yeah, they've been pretty standard the entire time. Something to note is that we do see a lot of Tracer on this battleground for BOE when it comes to Dignitas. Xaylia, of course, hasn't played it in a long time here, but it is one that he loves to go off on, so Expert needs to be thinking about that.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things on Expert minds for sure now. This is also a map where we could maybe see a little bit more Stitches playtime. That was one of the plays that we saw in the past, where during these standoffs that we have in the middle, you have good opportunities for hooks on both sides. So with Stitches now starting to make an appearance again on other maps, like Tomb of the Spider Queen, it might be one of the things where a team thinks, hey, could we maybe pull it off here? If we have the Tyrande on top of that too for the lockdown after hook, we can also use her to put more pressure onto the Immortal. So there's a couple of ways that you can approach the map now.
And is there a moment where we take the Zul'jin play away from Mana here and we put him back on a mage? Maybe Li Ming a little bit more effective here?
Yeah, I would say like Li Ming, he has shown an exceptional play on the Li Ming. She's great for the battleground because he can get the poke in. If he gets his hands on a Gul'dan, then he of course is also super, super scary. But in this case, I would go away from the Zul'jin, especially since for Expert, that variant strategy against him seems to be working out quite nicely.
Other heroes they got to keep an eye out for: Arthas, Greymane, these heroes that are always pulled out so well for controlling space. Johanna, too, makes a big play here. Bad Benny can play a solid variant, though. That's one of the things that Dignitas should probably start worrying about, too, with the playstyle that you're talking about. They're just walking in for these engages, and most of that starts there with that variant gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about heroes that are strong here, like the Greymane you just pointed out. One hero that we haven't actually seen that has been very dominant over the first few days was Vala. We've seen a bit of Vala play today, but not as much as we would expect. This is again a map where she can really shine because of that added pressure against the Immortal. Sylvanas is another one of these heroes. So there's actually a few things that teams have been trying to use in the games, and I'm curious. Every single time I see a draft where Expert plays, there's this one thing in the back of your head where you're saying like, oh my god, this could be awesome. There could be something that we just totally not expect from these teams.
That's the strength of Expert, though. And then they get to come play Standard, and they can just play it just as well. Dignitas bans with the Tassadar, not one to deal with it. Now, does Expert keep giving up the Lucio? I think they do, if they want to keep up with this whole hard engage composition.
I think they're not really too worried about the Lucio on the setup, but they ban out the Tracer over the Falstad here. So this is the first time in the games that we've seen here today from them that they say like, okay, we don't care about the Falstad, it's fine, you can have him.
I'm telling you that Xaylia Tracer on this battleground can be a threat. Yeah. What he does so well when you watch the replays is he dances around the angles where detection is very hard, so you can't actually get to this point and click stuns as easy.
You should have seen him. Like, I talked to him at the Western Clash when he was playing Tracer a couple of times, and then afterwards it was like, okay, how much did you enjoy it? And his eyes go wide, and he's like, dude, I have no ping here. I have 0 ping. It's awesome. And yeah, he was very sad and a little bit annoyed that after the first game where they played Tracer and he single-handedly destroyed the opponent, every team banned the hero out against him. He was a sad panda. So you are totally right. Banning out the Trace on a map like this against him is probably a good call.
And you know he's excited too, because Xaylia is usually a guy that never shows any emotion. And if he's freaking out about playing on LAN without any ping whatsoever, you know that he is pumped up.
He was so happy. It was so cool to see. He was like, I have no ping here. And yeah, in this case, though, they are starting with the Greymane. Great hero, of course, to get in first, just because he can get the hit points out of the Immortal super fast, and he's a great follow-up, of course, for the rest. Takes also a bit of the potential aggression away from Team Expert that they showcased on the on the third map.
And Stitches Tyrande, you mentioned earlier, it can be great. It's great on this battleground in particular because of the added benefit of having Tyrande and the Hunter Mark being available on the Immortals. You get the Stitches hooks out of nowhere, if you will, because there's a lot of great places to hide, so we'll keep an eye out for that. Team Expert grabbing Malfurion and Li Ming. Li Ming going up higher in priority just because of that melee factor.
The melee factor is one reason. The other reason is that, as we said before, you have oftentimes these standoff situations in the middle, and having the good poke, that's definitely something where you can excel. It's also a cool, like we saw Chris for the Playing Dogs play Li Ming earlier on the battleground, and just like the flanks that he set up for the opponent and how he blew up targets in the backline, that was beautiful to observe, and this is of course something that Expert is going to strive to do now as well.
All right, so Dignitas probably looking for one of their healers they would like to grab now. Lucio kind of floating around, can be picked up. They could go full double support. It's a bit harder to pull off in this battleground, in my opinion, but having Lucio Auriel has been a tried-and-true combo here in the Europe scene. Also, other things to pick up, Arthas, one of these great heroes that you can have in the rotation. Yeah,
Arthas is definitely another hero to watch out for here too. And it's, can I just say it's awesome that we have Arthas back in the meta. It's such fun to actually like see him engage there. There's probably a few backliners that will not agree with that statement, but for every tank player, it's cool to have him back again. And he is making his appearance here, this time together with the Anub'arak. So a very, very strong front line now for Dignitas.
Powerful front line. Yeah. The Anub'arak shuts down the Li Ming, can actually tank that damage that you would have sieging your way from the middle where she used to poke. You can actually walk into those orbs and Anub'arak won't mind. And then Arthas, of course, could be in the other wonderful pickup. It's hard to dive into an Arthas, and it's also hard to deal with him if there's a diver already. So the Anub'arak and Arthas just works together hand in hand.
My question already is if we have maybe another Medivh. I mean, at this point, you don't really have any of the heroes that would love to go through that portal and to immediately establish a presence there. It is great when you can do that with Greymane, when you can do it with an Arthas. Both of them are taken away by Team Dignitas. But it's one of those comfort heroes for especially someone like ADRD that can really help your team. The first thing, though, that happens is that Mene is relieved from the Jaina. So lockdown through Arthas and Anub'arak cannot be followed up by all that much extra damage here.
Now, bans for Dignitas, I think Volo could be a strong ban here. We haven't seen much of it overall, but just getting rid of it and taking it off the board can be a solid play for them. Just to make sure that Expert isn't able to burn down the Immortal, and the race goes heavily into the favor of Dig.
With Expert, you always have to ask yourself, is there something that you are just uncomfortable playing against? And this is always where the Medivh is somewhere in the back of my head. But so far, they haven't really shown a whole lot. They've shown the Malfurion, which is very standard. They have shown the Li Ming, so you don't know what else they have planned here. So you could go for one of these bans that you should point out. We could see something along the lines of a Medivh again, if they're worried about this. But that strong, heavy engage is something that I don't think is going to happen in this one. Banning out the Vala takes a lot of the Immortal pressure away that Expert could use. Yeah. So I think it's a solid ban here. They make that choice, and now Expert has to start showing their cards.
So yes, tanks now should be in the rotations. What do we grab here? Varian still on the board. Ragnaros going to be one of the first pickup for Expert. They grab it early. Expert in the first few weeks ran so much Ragnaros. It's actually pretty insane. Them and Team Liquid in particular pulled out so much Rag. They know how to handle this hero Blade, and both ADRD run these two.
Yeah, and this is also one of those things, if you get a pre-stun in, maybe again with the Varian and you are able to follow up with the Ragnaros and the Malfurion, Li Ming also getting a good combo off at that point, the damage that you chunk out at this moment is fantastic. So that's one of the things that we could see if they decide to go for additional pre-stun. Now, we have to point out that Dignitas also didn't pick their support just yet, and there's a very good chance that it will be that Lucio again that we've been talking about earlier. But there, we talked about him before, it is Medivh. They go for him again.
So Expert being willing to pick up anything they want, especially with Dignitas already having double Warrior. There is a small case that they go triple Warrior, but Dignitas is one of the team that never actually went into that rotation, especially here on BOE. So Expert's safe to wait on their last pick for their Warrior. Now, back to support. You mentioned Lucio. Other possible options, you could go Rhaegar, could go Kharazim. Kharazim in particular is helpful against Li Ming when he gets that 16, that wave of 100 fits, allows him to get that final pick off if Bakery's wanting to play aggressive.
At this point, you could even think about going potentially for a double support comp if you want to put that Greymane into a hyper carry role, but then Mane would go into a bit of an uncomfortable situation for himself. We've seen him on Tacitus in the past when needed by his team, but that hero is banned out. A Lucio, on the other hand, would really help the Arthurs with engages that he could use. The problem is that then again, you don't have a burst heal that you can utilize unless you want to use your heroic ability, and then the timing has to be really spot on. So they could decide in this case, as we said, to shift away from him, decide to still run it with a Lucio, and they put the eggs again in the Sylvanas basket. So far, every time we've seen that, it has backfired, but I would say from all the Sylvanas comps that we've seen so far, I probably like this one the most. Very solid frontline, very good damage with the Greymane, and on this map now also is like an intense amount of damage against the Immortal, thanks to the Greymane and thanks to Sylvanas.
Yeah, and the Sylvanas just makes it to where Expert can't decide, okay, we're going to give up an Immortal. You can't do that against the Sylvanas, so that pressure is heavy here. Now, they need their Warrior. I'm still cool with the Varian gameplay. You get the Medivh to dive in, you get your taunt, you can grab Lucio, you can grab Greymane, you can grab Sylvanas, and with the Sophia Smash, you should be fine. Li Ming will have a bit of a hard time hitting Orb into Qs, simply because of a Nubrek and the Army of the Dead being in the way.
Yeah, that tank, this is a tricky one, I must say, because that setup that we see for Dignitas looks super solid. They go into the Varian, and I think it makes sense. If you have Varian, you put the root in, and this time you try to follow it up, as mentioned before. Ragnaros ult, Li Ming damage, you need to go for a bit of blow up, but overall the draft I feel for Dignitas is a bit stronger this time.
Looking great here. Expert does have the tools they've been running and been successful with so far, but in terms of actual battleground, Dignitas, I agree with you, does have the solid draft for killing out an Immortal and pushing with it. The question is, will they get it off? One thing they have to do that they failed to do on Brax's holdout is they cannot stagger deaths. They staggered 3 deaths in the early to mid game, and Expert just kept with it.
It's also a question of how much you feel pressured now. You need to win 2 in a row. They are probably confident going into this with the draft that they have, but it was still a battleground choice from Team Expert, and they know that they have to win 2 in a row now. So that puts just a bit of pressure on you. They are in a comfortable scenario that we are playing this online, so it's not that offline problem that you oftentimes have with nervousness, which could hit someone like Zelia, so he should be in his comfort zone here, but it has to be in the back of your head if you're going up against such an important opponent as Expert, who are aiming for one of the spot in the top 3. And they are the direct competitor of Dignitas, actually, when you look at the standing. It's rank 3 against rank 4.
Yeah. An Expert wanting to climb up there, and they're showing it here. Now, there is a possibility that we go into a game number 5, which will be absolutely exciting here. It's great to see that we have Expert up 2-1 over their opponents. It's just been a great day, period, for HGC. If you have the chance, make sure to watch the VODs from the earlier matchup. Let's go ahead and get started here for game number 4. We are moving into Battlefield of Eternity. Dignitas and Expert going at it.
4th game, and we have that lead, of course, for Expert that we've been talking about, the 2-1 lead in the best of 5, and that gives an edge to the team in red. But first of all, to the left, we have Dignitas. They are rocking it with Zelia on the Arthurs, Snitch on Greymane, JPL on Anubarak, Bakery on Lucio, and Mene is playing Sylvanas again.
Expert to the right in the red, ADRD on his trademark Medivh. Kirsten will be playing Malfurion. Blade will be playing Ragnaros. Bad Binny is on Varian, and Li Ming will be on Nick.
This is going to be a really exciting one, because I really feel that once that we're having Team Expert getting maybe a bit of momentum in that game, Dignitas could have a problem with nerfs. We talked about that. For them, this is a really important one. Every single time we have 2 teams in the stand that are close to each other in the standings going up against each other, there's a lot on the line. And right now, Expert, of course, on being rank 4 in the standings, is going to aim for that number 3 spot. Already JPL losing quite a chunk of his hit points as we see Bad Benny charging in from the side.
Yeah, that's why you typically haven't been seeing many solo Nubraks doing so well this weekend, because they do get bursted pretty quickly if the coordination is on point like it is here in competitive heroes. Ragnaros and Arthas will be in the top lane, so ADRD and crew would do their best to put pressure on the Anubrak.
It's absolutely crazy how much you can really do with a Varian if you have a Medivh with you as well. If that Medivh is allowed to just always focus his shield on the Varian himself, then it is insane how much this guy can survive. So right now, Bad Benny, once again with the pressure every single time from the side here. And that is, of course, still very early in the game. And to the top lane, we're having the battle between Arthas and Ragnaros.
Bad Benny getting so many efficient trades right now with his Varian, which is odd to say, because Varian usually is one of those heroes that you just play passive with in the early game, because you don't really get him to become a real hero, in quotation marks, until level 10, as said by many pros. But Bad Benny making it work.
We have Meneville the Mercenary Queen again here, and on this map there's not really all that many camps around, so it really feels like there might be a point where he starts to split push a bit at the start of the objective just to get more value and pressure these structures a bit more. If they can, of course, siege up and get the advantage in the game, going those Immortals, maybe team them up with a camp and then push through and really siege up on a keep, that would be the ideal scenario for them. But first of all, we're talking Immortals, and that's where Dignitas has a bit of an advantage when it comes to their burst power. But Expert, they are looking for team fights.
ADRD on Medivh has elected to stay on top of Sylvanas and wait till she rotates into a lane. And that's a good idea, because if Medivh is able to watch Sylvanas, bring out those Qs, you can make sure that she doesn't get that split pushing going that you were just alluding to.
And good old Ragnaros, of course, our raid boss is up at the top right now. They're still dancing around each other, waiting for the level 4, seeing if they can make something happen here. Bad Benny is careful with the stuns, but in the back line, Nick is careful with that Li Ming since he needs to move back. Big engage by Dignitas, and Curson is losing out on the exchange. He falls, and Bad Benny is also being attacked here. There is no portal, there's no help, and that's a double kill. Dignitas saying right out of the gate, this is our game. You are not going to take us down 3-1.
Yeah, snap call by Dignitas, realizing that Malfurion was slightly out of position, didn't have an escape route, and also didn't have the route available to stop them from charging in. So, big pick off, and we're going to have the Immortals burned down. Dignitas taking the major lead, which puts Expert on the back foot, and they have to defend.
And this is, of course, again, the Sylvanas value that we've been mentioning earlier. This should definitely lead to the first Immortal to Dignitas. The only thing that Team Expert is attempting to do here is just trying to burn it down a little bit so that the shields are a bit lower, so they can easily defend against it. But Mene is going to try and make that happen. Again, Kirsten, and he's about to go down here, or is he? Bad Benny is charging in once again with the shield, and once more Kirsten in the backline is being charged by JPL, but he's running out of mana. Snitch is going deep, is going in, and he's not getting punished for it. Another kill against Kirsten, and that is Malfurion dying for the second time this game.
And that hurts because it's Sylvanas factor. They're going to run the top lane here, and they can probably get this fort just because there's no support there to back him up. All hands need to be on deck here to help defend. The Molten Core has him popped here. We should be seeing the aggressive push in. Arthas is in the bottom looking for now, and let's see how quickly Dignitas can maybe burn through this blade here with that Molten Core.
Yeah, Molten Core is still active, and I mean they get good damage out here. They burn that Immortal down. That really shouldn't do too much. But now with Sylvanas finally being able to disable the fort, they know it good. The portal is in the back. They're a little bit wary of that, and for very good reason. It's still a lead for Dignitas to take a level, and they have now also Snitch at the bot lane together with Zelia so that they can start taking down towers there too. And yeah, the kill against Varian in the bot lane, that was an important one as well. 4 kills against 0. Dignitas, good start in the game. Great performance by them thus far.
Yeah, great so far. Experts holding in there. The portal was actually interesting. They put it near Sylvanas, not to actually dive on top of her, but to stop her from attacking the fort, which allowed for the Immortal to get burned down by the fort damage. Great rotation, though, by Dignitas to go to that bottom lane and kick off that Variant, just keeping their experience lead as they hit 7 way before their opponents. Expert is now grabbing their own, grabbing the bottom lane, getting pushed in. Ragnaros has called out that there are multiple members in the top lane, so Expert will take that time to at least release some pressure by putting the bottom lane.
And now we have the problematic with Sylvanas unfold in front of us, because we've been talking a lot about how Sylvanas comps haven't really been too successful yet in HGC Europe, and because mostly these comps fell behind very early. This time it's exactly the opposite. We have a slight lead for Team Dignitas, and they're exploiting this as much as they can with Sylvanas pushing in heavily and putting damage onto the structures, using the Mercenary Queen together with the camps that they've just been taking. So this is them sieging up, trying to take down a fort before the next phase even spawns. And even if they only get the fountain here, that would already be a small victory.
Yes, it would. Expert close to 17. And the moment they get close to it, Dignitas calls the retreat. They do back away. Immortal should be activating soon. There we are. And 14 seconds will be set up. Dignitas is elected to grab their Shamblers and have them push in the bottom.
And one of the really important key points is always that Greymane. We've seen Greymane be so successful in all of these games. His win ratio over the last few days has actually been exceptional. He was very successful for Team Liquid in the games against the playing Ducks. He was also great on the last game when Expert picked him up. And already in this game, he had a huge impact as Snitch was diving heavily into the backline, putting the pressure onto Malfurion and Li Ming.
Medivh solo defending in the bottom lane against Arthas and Sylvanas for the moment. Everyone from Team Experts have to rotate down, and they're jumping on Zelia. The orb does come out, but barely chunks in, and Bakery with the speed gets Zelia out of the fight, which has brought a new Breck over to the Immortal to start DPSing.
Yeah, DPS and Nubarak reporting to duty. So right now he was attempting to make something happen there that didn't really work out too well. But of course one of the goals for Dignitas, with especially Greymane up at the top, was also to see if they can maybe even reach level 10 for that Immortal. And Expert is actually just moving into that bot lane. Yeah, ADRD needs to be cautious. That cannot happen. If they lose another hero here, that would be a disaster. But it's already starting to be problematic because it's only half a level until Team Dignitas will hit their next set of talents. And Expert, they have to make a choice. Either you let it go or you make your move now.
It does feel like the Expert is trying to bait out a fight from Dignitas before 10 does happen. They've now put 2 people in positions where they should be ganked, and it hasn't gone out. Bakery is going to be the one for the target here. The portal pops out. JPL being focused down here. Nick does drop it a big orb. It hits Snitch. 10 is very close right now for Dignitas. Expert needs to get a kill now or deuce.
Yeah, they need to move back from this one. Dignitas is going to have that 10, and that is definitely certain. So what do you go from here? Dignitas will win the Immortal unless they make a big mistake and Expert can exploit it. And Expert is still poking away, but that's dangerous once your opponent has level 10.
Yeah, especially if a Howling Blast connects, that should be a dead target with Snitch there on that go for the throat. 1 level and a quarter needed just for Expert to even get 10.
And that will also be quite useful for the defense alone, not only to rival the Immortal here, but for the defense it would be fantastic. They make sure that the shields are roughly at 50% and not at 100. That helps a little bit, but them being an entire level behind means that Dignitas is pushing in with Sylvanas, the Immortal, and the level 10 lead.
Pushing the bottom, and Ragnaros is in the top lane doing the soaking. He's probably one of the best clears, but he needs to get down here to help out with the fort. I think the call here for Expert is to give up the fort and use your Molten Core on the keep. That's more important here to save than your own fort.
Yeah, you can't save the fort. That is just not going to happen now. But look how problematic the situation is. The fort falls before the Immortal even arrives, and that Sylvanas is getting massive amount of health. This is exactly why you draft the Sylvanas. This is the thought process behind it. They're trying to take that lead and really carry it deep into the heart of your opponent's base, and that's what they're attempting to do here. So the defense is setting up on the keep itself. Level 10 soon, not quite yet, but a good swing.
Does hit multiple warriors in the front line. Zelia charging in, looking for ADRD. Bad Benny's on the right side. He turns around. 10 is here. Taunt is available. Will Bad Benny get the taunt that he's looking for? Curson's going for the poke, and Snitch is focused in. The big leyline seal on the back line.
Yeah, but no follow-up, and that's that key. Not quite certain what exactly that Ragnaros was there. I mean, yes, that thing connected, but without any follow-up damage and any kind of coordination from the rest of the team, that's just a wasted cooldown. So Blade connects with the ult, but doesn't get any real value out of it. That keep is gone, and that is a 9-minute keep that we're seeing. Dignitas is pushing buttons heavily.
That they are. The catapult's pushing in the bottom. Expert's going to have to make something happen. They're sitting in the bush here. Bad Benny looking for a target to jump onto. Would love to get on top of that Lucio. He is behind him. Ragnaros is on the right side. He's getting focused down. Can Nick save this? He does drop down the wave of force, but it's not enough.
Yeah, that hurt. And now Bakery is, of course, trying to make sure that they are chasing the rest of the team and get a second kill. But good disengage from Team Expert. But this is not looking pretty, like not at all. Yes, they are ahead in the series with the 2-1, but this is more and more looking like Dignitas might be able to force them into a 5th game. The experience lead that we have for Dignitas is fantastic. Definitely 2 levels. That is an extra talent. That should also help them with the next Immortal. I would be surprised if Expert can pick up enough experience to fight on even talents for Immortal number 3. And then we're talking Sylvanas again. This is exactly what you're trying to do with the Sylvanas composition. Establish a lead, establish an air talent lead, and just win one objective after another, push in with it, and completely destroy your opponent without ever giving them a chance to come back in.
Expert does have one factor for them. They have the leyline seal that can force their fight to go into a number advantage, whether it be a 5v3 or a 5v2, and then they get resets on Li Ning. That's where they can really start to come back. They go in for a taunt, they're hitting Zelia, they're focusing him down, the orb does not connect. Zelia's going to turn around now and go for the engage.
Yeah, they're trying to make a play there. Yeah, Blade moving away thanks to this. What do you think we should see on the side of Expert? What would be the call to make now to get any value out of the Immortal phase? Push for the fort or?
Yeah, I want to see whether they engage into a taunt there, especially with Zelia using the Army of the Dead there in the last fight. He is missing his tankiness. So you can blow him up if you get that Leyland Seal on the back line. You hit the Greymane, you can focus down Arthas, which is weird to say, but it can be done.
The Immortals are on the map now, so this is really the time where you have to make that decision, and Bad Benny is looking for an opportunity to take someone down. Right in, are they really going? Yes, they're going for it, and Nubarak, oh my god, the sound barrier from Bakery, barely saving him. Leyline Seal is for now at least avoiding the worst. The worst being Team Dignitas taking another few kills against Team Expert, but that was a very good approach. And you know what? We didn't see Ragnaros' ult.
No, he actually saved it there, so he's going to be able to have it for the next taunt engage if it happens. Ragnaros is now forced to go down to the bottom and defend for now, so there is going to be a slight race on the Immortals. And Expert's actually in a good spot if they can taunt and get engaged now. They are not 13, though. That's where it's hurting.
They need that engage, they really do. But they have Ragnaros defending, so at this point it's all up to the top here. Rag has to join up with the rest of the team if they want to save this somehow. And I feel they need to get a kill soon. Ragnaros is on the way. This is the moment. This is an opportunity that they might be able to use here. The taunt is out. There comes the ult. They go for Arthur. Salia is low, but he does not die.
Greyman's in the back, though. Snitch is taking some damage. Bad Benny goes in for it. Snitch does get away. The Immortal is so low. Dignitas trying to finish it off so they can push in. Expert dealing with catapults on their core now.
Yeah, but they might be able to just like wait that out a bit longer. These things don't hurt as much just yet. Once again, Bad Benny has the taunt available, but he's rather low, and that Immortal is taken. It's a bit unfortunate for Expert. They looked for a moment like they could get the kill there. If Ragnaros joins up a bit earlier or is able to connect with the ultimate once they go for a Nubarak in the first engagement, that would have been probably a dead Anub and take it from there. But right now, we're still looking at a level 13 talent for at least the defense. Dignitas, on the other hand, is of course going to try and make a play for keep number 2.
As they should. We're going to have Ragnaros on the bottom clearing out the catapults and also getting against Team 13. There is the 13. Fortin's being picked off. Nick using as much as he can here to poke on the Immortal to just get it as weak as possible before it does move into the keep, and the Molten Core comes in for defense.
They're starting to push this very, very heavily right now. So here comes once again that Sylvanas push. Already the Molten Core. Blade is there. They're starting to get some damage on the objective. And we have all of them just waiting for an opportunity to maybe make that play. See if they can connect once that Blade comes out with the Sulfura Smash after taunt. So here we have Ragnaros. Bad Benny, is he moving in? Is he going for the taunt? Not just yet, but here comes Anubra going into the backline. Is taunted. Here comes the Sulfura Smash. Not hitting anything though. Great play by Bakery once again with the sound barrier, and it's a double kill. And oh, this is painful.
Yeah, Expert looks like they're going to lose the game here. The sound barrier and the arrow being used by both Lucio and Sylvanas has been on point every single time. Sound barrier to keep everyone alive. Sylvanas drops the arrow to make sure there's no further engagement happening, and Expert falls down pretty harshly against Dignitas, 16-13, and we are going to a game number 5.
That was definitely a solid performance by Dignitas. GG as we see them taking the game and forcing the 5th game. And as you said before, when we had the last engagement, the one thing that happened was that Anubarak was diving in, and at the time Anubarak dove in, Bakery was already hitting the sound barrier. He was saying, okay, we're going with everything we have, we take the kill, and the Immortal is going to do the rest for us. Great play by them, and that leaves us with a tie and another game 5.
And the good news is Dignitas made Sylvanas work, so she doesn't have a 0% win rate today, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Getting ready for game number 5 between these two teams. Let's be right back. We're going to finish HGC Europe with a bang.
The demon Asmodan